If someone walks up to you and says gold is going to $27,000 an ounce, your brain does something automatic. It files them in the same drawer as the guy on YouTube with a ring light, a fake bookshelf behind him, and a countdown timer telling you the dollar dies on Friday. You roll your eyes, you keep scrolling, and 99 times out of 100, you are completely right to. But this is the one time out of 100, because the man making this particular prediction is not that guy. His name is Jim Rickards. He is a lawyer and an economist. He was the top lawyer at one of the most famous hedge fund blowups in history. And here's the part that makes people sit up. He has actually advised parts of the US intelligence community and the Pentagon on something called financial warfare, basically war games where instead of bombs, countries attack each other with currencies and markets. So when a man with that resume looks at gold and says a number that sounds completely insane, the smart move is not to laugh. The smart move is to ask one question. How on earth did he get to that number? Because if his math is real, it changes how you see everything. So today we are going to do something different. First, I am going to make the strongest possible case for why $27,000 gold is not as crazy as it sounds. I am going to steelman it so well that you might start to believe it. And then, because this is this channel, I am going to turn around and stress test the whole thing and show you the part the late night gold commercials never mention. By the end, you will understand gold better than basically everyone in your group chat. Let's get into it. First, the case. Where does a number like $27,000 even come from? Because gold today trades at record highs, but it is still many, many times below that. For gold to get there, it would have to multiply several times over. So is Rickards just picking a scary number out of the air? No, and this is the part that surprises people. His number comes from a very specific idea. The idea is this: what if one day, after some kind of crisis, the world is forced to partly back its money with gold again, the way it used to a century ago? Governments do not want to do this. They like being able to print money freely. But Rickards argues that in a true emergency, like a collapse of trust in paper money, they might have no choice. Here is the math, in plain English. A country's money supply is enormous. If you wanted to back even 40% of that mountain of money with the relatively tiny amount of gold that actually exists, the price of each ounce of gold would have to be jacked up massively to make the two sides balance. Run that calculation, and you land at roughly $27,533 an ounce. That is the whole trick. It is not a prediction that gold gets popular. It is a statement that if money ever gets tied back to gold, the price has to be that high, simply because there is so much money and so little gold. Whether you agree or not, you have to admit that is a real argument, not a guy yelling at a webcam. But the gold standard idea is the far-off dramatic version. The more interesting part is what is happening right now, today, in the real world. And there are three things going on that even the skeptics cannot really deny. Number one, the central banks are buying like crazy. These are the giant national banks that print and manage each country's money. For decades, they were actually sellers of gold. They did not want the boring yellow rock. But somewhere around 2010, they flipped. They became buyers. And the buying has exploded. Central banks went from buying under 100 tons of gold a year to well over 1,000 tons a year. That is roughly a 10 times increase. And here is why that matters. These are the most informed money managers on the planet. They are not buying gold because of a YouTube video. They are buying it because they are quietly nervous about the future of paper money, including the US dollar. When the people who print the money start hoarding the one thing they cannot print, you should at least notice. Number two, the supply is basically stuck. You cannot just print gold. You have to dig it out of the ground, and that is slow, expensive, and getting harder. Global gold production has been roughly flat for years, stuck around 4,000 tons annually, so you have demand exploding while supply sits still. You do not need an economics degree to know what happens to the price of something when way more people want it, and there is not any more of it. It goes up. That is not a theory. That is a vending machine with one candy bar left and a line out the door. Number three, and this is the spicy one, the paper gold problem. Here is something that sounds made up but is completely real. Most of the gold being traded in the world is not real gold. It is paper. It is contracts, promises, IOUs that say you own gold sitting in some vault somewhere. And the ratio is wild. For roughly every 1 ounce of actual physical gold, there are around 100 ounces of these paper claims floating around. 100 to 1. As long as almost nobody asks to actually collect their real gold, the system runs perfectly fine. like a coat check that sold 100 tickets for the same coat and is just praying nobody shows up at the same time. But if enough people ever do show up and demand the real physical metal, there is not nearly enough to go around. And the price of the real stuff could rocket upward in a way that breaks the whole paper system. Rickards argues this is the hidden crack in the entire gold market. So that is the case. Serious man, real math, record central bank buying, frozen supply, and a paper market built on 100-to-1 prayer. Honestly, laid out like that, it is pretty convincing, which is exactly why we now need to slow down and stress test it, because a convincing story is the most dangerous kind. Here's the first crack. The $27,000 number depends entirely on one giant if the world returns to backing money with gold. And there is no real sign that any major government actually wants to do that. They have spent 50 years escaping the gold standard precisely because it ties their hands. So the headline number is not a forecast of what will happen. It is a calculation of what gold would be worth in a specific dramatic scenario that may simply never arrive. Those are two very different things, and the difference tends to get lost when the number gets printed in big, bold letters. Second crack. Gold is not the magic money machine people think. Yes, it has had a huge run, but over the very long term, gold mostly just keeps pace with inflation. It is insurance, not a rocket ship. It does not pay you anything while you hold it. No dividend, no interest, nothing. It just sits there in a safe being shiny. There are long stretches of history, decades even, where gold went absolutely nowhere and people who went all in just had to sit and wait and feel silly. So anyone telling you to dump everything into gold is not giving you a strategy. They are giving you a mood. And here's the third crack, the one I really want you to remember. Pay very close attention anytime a prediction comes wrapped in three specific ingredients at once. 1, a smart and credible person. 2, a scary deadline. And 3, the magic phrase, a secret way to profit that everyone else will miss. Because that exact combination, credibility plus fear plus a special secret, is not just how big ideas get shared. It is also the single most common recipe in the entire financial newsletter business. It is how subscriptions get sold. It is how people get nudged into one specific product right at the peak of excitement. I am not saying the gold thesis is fake. The central bank buying is real. The supply squeeze is real. The paper problem is real. I am saying that the moment someone tells you there is a secret door and only the special few get to walk through it, that is the exact moment to put your hand on your wallet and think for yourself. The truth does not usually need a countdown timer. So where does that leave a normal person who just wants to be smart about this? Honestly, somewhere in the calm middle, which is the least exciting answer and usually the correct one. Even careful, boring financial advisors will tell you that holding a small slice of gold, often somewhere in the range of 5 to 10% of your wealth, can make sense as insurance against chaos. Not because gold is going to $27,000 next week, but because the world is genuinely uncertain, central banks really are buying, and a little protection is reasonable. The mistake is not owning some gold. The mistake is betting your entire future on a single dramatic number and a single confident man, no matter how impressive his resume is. Because here's the real lesson, and it is bigger than gold. The most dangerous predictions in the world are not the dumb ones. The dumb ones are easy to ignore. The dangerous ones are the smart ones, the ones with real math, real credentials, and a real argument, because those are the ones convincing enough to make you forget that nobody, not Jim Rickards, not me, not anyone, actually knows the future. Good math can still be wrong. A genius can still be early by a decade, which in investing feels exactly like being wrong. So take the thesis seriously. Just never take it as gospel. So now I want to hear from you, because this one genuinely splits people. When you look at all of it, the central bank buying, the frozen supply, the 100-to-1 paper problem, where do you land? Are you A, a believer? You think gold has a massive run still ahead and a small bet now looks smart later. Are you B, a skeptic? You think gold is fine as a little insurance, but the giant scary numbers are mostly marketing. Or are you C, completely out? You would rather own assets that actually pay you something instead of a shiny rock that just sits in a safe. Drop your letter in the comments and tell me why, because the comment section on a gold video is always the best show on the internet.